So you are welcome to the third session of Making Money with Rabbits series. On today's session, we are just going to discuss breed selection and then breeding rabbits. Breed selection and breeding rabbits. So if you are here with me, let's go deeper into our video. So since we have decided to enter into meat rabbit farming, we have to select breeds that mature faster or that grow faster and then have also a high meat to bone ratio. So it's very important that we consider that, because there are other rabbit breeds that grow well, they gain a lot of weight but have more bone to meat ratio. And since you are doing meat farming or meat rabbit farming, we need more meat as compared to bone ratio. So what are some of the breeds we could use for our meat rabbit farming business? Okay, so regularly the types of breeds that we could use are the New Zealand white, the California white, the chinchilla, either the standard chinchilla or the American chinchilla, any of them. We could also use the palominos, and then we could use the chestnut as well. Cinnamon is also not a bad breed at all. So these are the 5 main breeds we could use for meat rabbit farming. Other than that, in our part of the world, or in Africa, or let's limit it to Ghana, in our part of the world, let's say Africa or even Ghana, farmers have bred and rebred and selected breeds that will favor them. So you could end up seeing a New Zealand white that is probably, or a rabbit that has all the features of a New Zealand white, but it's probably smaller or bigger than a so-called giant rabbit. Okay, so it's based on the farmer's own experience and then based on his ability to produce rabbits that are constantly attaining the 2 kilograms weight within a period of 3 months or 4 months. So whenever we visit a farm, sometimes we could equally pay attention to how fast the rabbits are growing or the weight of the rabbits, so that we use it to make an informed decision on a breed selection. So in our part of the world, it doesn't matter the physical attributes the rabbits we are purchasing has, but we should pay more attention to how fast those rabbits grow, their prolificacy, and then their ability to attain the weight at the fastest possible time, because that's what we are looking at. We want to be able to make the most of the feed we are giving to our rabbits. You have to pay attention to that one very, very, very well. Okay, so that's the first point we are going to consider: breed selection, or the types of breeds we could use when deciding on our rabbit farming venture. So here, most people use the New Zealand whites, or rabbits that usually have white color and then the red or pink eyes, because they tend to have more meat to bone ratio. They grow faster most of the time. But there's a lot of circumstances where you could have a rabbit that is probably a Dutch, has the features of a Dutch, and it's probably bigger, way bigger than somebody's so-called New Zealand white. So you have to pay attention to the performance of the rabbits, or the performance of the rabbits on the farm when we visit. The second thing we have to consider is the litter sizes of the rabbits and then the mortality rates. So when you visit a farm for the first time, you have to look around the farm. Okay, look around the farm, see if certain rabbits, there are a few rabbits that have given birth, interact with the farmer. Okay, and then if possible, let him give you the opportunity to have a look. Let him give you the opportunity to have a look at the rabbits that have given birth. How many rabbits did they give birth to, and how many survived? So you should average around 5 or 6, and then the mortality rate to how many are surviving. If the rabbits are giving birth to 7 or 8, are more than 50% of the rabbits dying. If more than 50% of the rabbits are dying, then it's not good. So you have to pay attention to that, because it usually transcends. Okay, it transcends from generation to generation. Whatever is happening in a family tree moves on. So if the rabbit is averaging 5-6 bunnies per litter, then you'll be rest assured that if you have good feed, you could duplicate the same number or even increase the number of bunnies you get per litter. So we have to pay attention to that. Also, we have to pay attention to the physical attributes of the rabbit you are going to buy. here, pay attention to the physical attributes of the rabbit you are going to buy. So here are certain things I look out for when I'm going to buy rabbits. Their feet. Okay, so if you've paid attention to rabbits, or if you've seen rabbits a lot of time, you realize that their feet are supposed to be in a certain shape, especially the forelimbs. The forelimbs are supposed to be in a certain shape. So when you pick up a rabbit and you realize that the forelimbs are not standing firm, they open. We usually call something K-legs in Africa. So if you realize that the rabbit's forelimbs are not standing firm, but they are rather in the K shape, or they open, and the rabbit's not able to walk well with the forelimbs, then you should, it's a red flag for you. You shouldn't select that rabbit. Secondly, you should pay attention to the eye. We are checking for any sickness. Pay attention to the eye. Is the eye clear enough? Is it open? Are there dry tissues around the eyes? You have to pay attention to all of that. Now you look also at the fur. The fur is supposed to be relaxed. Okay, a healthy rabbit's fur is supposed to be relaxed. So if you realize that the fur is standing so much, or it looks scattered, or something of that sort, you have to also pay attention to that. You also check the anal region. That's where you confirm the sex of the rabbit. If it has diarrhea, or probably it's developing coccidiosis, or something of that sort, you have to pay attention to that aspect as well. So you check the feet, you check the eyes, you check the fur, and then also you check the anal region. You should also pay attention. Some people like to pay attention to the ears of the rabbit. Sometimes they say when the rabbit has a very big ear, it's going to grow big. But there are rabbits that have very big ears, like the French lob and the English lob, because that's their nature, and most of the time the ears droop. So if you are looking at that, you don't have to consider that one so much. If you're looking at that, you don't have to consider that one so much, but a couple of people use it to very great effect. So you look at the ears of the rabbit, and then they can tell that this rabbit is going to grow big, or is good for meat selection or meat rabbit breeding. So people use those criteria in selecting their rabbits. So you have to pay attention to all these physical attributes. And then lastly, you have to pay attention to the teeth, the dentition. So regularly, rabbits have these two incisors showing, but if you observe critically, you realize that there are some rabbits that have prolonged incisors. Okay, because of that, they are not able to feed well. So if you buy a rabbit, or from the onset, when you visit a rabbitry and you go to the community hatches, usually where the weaners are kept, where you have a lot of young bunnies in there, you realize that some rabbits, or you see a common denominator amongst all the rabbits there. Their size is usually the same, but you spot one or two rabbits that are a little lighter or smaller than all the rabbits you see in the cage. So you have to pay attention to those ones. You realize that either their teeth is overgrowing, okay, and because of that they are not able to feed well. So you have to also observe that. So these are the criteria we should look out for when selecting our rabbits for breeding. The physical attributes we have to pay attention to when we go to purchase our breeding stock, or when we go to purchase our rabbits for whatever purpose. Also, we have to ask questions. More importantly, about the age of the rabbits and when they were born, so that we could know when to breed, how fast they are growing, and if they are not overpriced or not overrated or something of that sort. So we have to pay attention to the records the farmer has regarding the age of the rabbits, so we know when to breed and how fast our rabbits can grow. So now we'll be going into breeding itself. So sexing rabbits. How do you determine whether a rabbit is a male or a female? Regularly, you could be able to determine the sex of a rabbit as early as the age of 4 weeks. I can do that a little bit earlier, sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks. But because of how we might be expecting a larger number of females as compared to males, there might be biases. So we could wait till they are 4 weeks or 6 weeks, and then we do the sexing. Now, if we select a male rabbit, or if we pick up a rabbit and we want to be sure it's a male, when we go to the anal region and when we touch the genitals, with a male rabbit, it pops out this way, so it stands and then it goes back. But then with a female rabbit, it lies. Okay, so when we touch the anal region, for the female rabbit, the sexual organ lies down and then has the V shape, so it lies flat. But for the male rabbit, it pops up. Okay, so you have to pay attention to that. The male rabbit pops out standing this way, and the female rabbit comes and then it lies with a V shape. So that's what we have to look out for when sexing rabbits. We could do that as early as 4 weeks and then get the sex of our rabbits determined. So when you pick up the rabbit, you turn the back into your palm and then you use your other finger or your other hand to move the genital region, and then you check for the slit or the stand. That's how we do the sexing of our rabbits. When it comes to breeding rabbits, we usually pay attention to when the rabbits are sexually mature or sexually active for crossing. In community hatches, sometimes when they're not fortunate enough, rabbits could start breeding amongst themselves around the age of 3 months. That's like teenage pregnancy in human terms. So rabbits can start breeding among themselves as early as 3 months. So most of the time what we do is, when rabbits are around the age of 3 months, we separate the females from the males so that it doesn't happen that there is inbreeding or there are circumstances of teenage pregnancy amongst the community hatches. So if your rabbits are growing fast enough and they are not giant breeds, okay, you could breed them as early as 5 months. You could as well just do 6 months to be on the safe side. Usually why I try 5 months is when a rabbit is not ready, or first time mothers, okay, sometimes they could get pregnant, give birth alright, and not pay attention to the kids. So you try at 5 months. When it gives birth and doesn't pay attention to the kids and you are able to take care of them, fine. If you're not able to take care of them, you rebreed after 2 weeks, and by the time it's 6 months to 6.5 months, it would have given birth. And this time, since it's the second time it's giving birth, it will be able to cater for the kids. So that's my method I use. Aside that, if your rabbit gives birth and it's not paying attention to the kids, for 5 minutes every morning and then 5 minutes in the evening, you hold your female rabbit in a cage. You hold the female rabbit in your kindling box, whether being the carton or the wooden box or either the aluminium box that you bought or you built. You hold the rabbits down so that the bunnies can feed. Also, we advise that you cross at least 2 female rabbits at the same time or on the same day, so that you do what we call foster mothering, okay, or you do what we call fostering. So if rabbit A gives birth and it's not paying attention to the kids, and you're trying so much to do the manual way and it's still not working out, you can just transfer the bunnies from rabbit A to rabbit B. So at least cross 2 female rabbits on the same date. It will be even better if you cross 3 or 4 rabbits on the same date, so that when they give birth and you have issues like that, you could transfer 2 litters. You don't transfer all at once, because rabbits have 8 teeth, that's 8 nipples. So usually when they have more than 8 bunnies, they do separation. They cater for some in the morning and they cater for some in the evening. So if you foster so many bunnies, it's going to be to the disadvantage of the mother and also to the disadvantage of the actual bunnies that we're giving birth to. So we have to pay attention to that. Try as much as possible to cross 3 rabbits or 3 does at the same time or on the same date. Now, I've already mentioned in my previous videos that the gestation period of a rabbit ranges from 28 days to 31 days, so 1 month. So rabbits actually give birth very fast. So when the rabbits mature at 5 or 6 months, you cross it within 1 month, it gives birth. After 1 month, you can wean your bunnies. You can also do 6 weeks, you can also do 8 weeks. But after 1 month, you can rebreed your female rabbits. Okay, so every 3 months, your rabbit gives birth. If you are using the cycle of weaning your rabbits at 4 weeks and crossing your rabbits again, because your rabbit's gestation period is 1 month. So you cross your rabbit, it gets pregnant for 1 month, it takes care of the bunnies for another 1 month, and then you cross it again at the end of another 1 month. So that's 3 months to produce another. So every 3 months you get a new set of bunnies, or you get a new litter. So that's a method you could use. Other people try to use 2 weeks intervals. When the rabbit gives birth, they cross the female. So when the rabbit gives birth, they cross the female again after 2 weeks, but they wean at 4 weeks. So when they wean at 4 weeks, the female rabbit will have an extra 2 weeks to prepare for the next litter. But that one is sometimes stressful, and it also depends on the quality of feed you are giving to your rabbits. So to be on the safe side, let's just do 4 weeks pregnancy, 4 weeks weaning, and then 4 weeks pregnancy again. so that we maintain or manage the stress levels of our rabbits or of our does. So when do you cross your rabbits? So rabbits come on heat. Rabbits have a 2 weeks heat cycle where you realize that either when female rabbits are together, you realize that it tries to mount another female. It tries to mount another females. Sometimes it becomes very active, very restless in and out of the cage. And then lastly, you could just lift up the rabbit and then check the genital region. You would realize that it has a reddish color. It has changed color, looks very reddish. And then that's when you realize the rabbit is on heat. But aside that, you could as well breed your rabbits as and when you want. So based on your breeding cycle, you could just breed your rabbit. That one, we usually take the female to the male's cage because that's where the male has authority. So when you take the female to the male's cage, it gives you easier access to breeding. So we take the female to the male's cage. If it's ready to accept mating, it will ovulate at that point. So rabbits usually ovulate when they are introduced. So rabbits usually ovulate when they are introduced to the males. And that's the most important aspect of reproduction. It's about ovulation and not when they are on heat. So since rabbits ovulate when they are introduced to the males, it helps with they duplicating at a very fast rate. Now, sometimes you realize that your female rabbits are not allowing you to breed them. You realize that your female rabbits are not allowing you to breed them. You could be using moringa powder or moringa leaves itself to induce them to allow you to breed, or you could be adding ginger powder to their diets. That one helps. There's also the option of forced breeding. So I'm going to upload a YouTube short on forced breeding so that we could all get the advantage of that on how to use forced breeding to help us cross our female rabbits and then get the results we need. I also advise that instead of crossing your rabbits during the day, you cross them early in the morning before 10 a.m. or in the evening after 4, because the semen of rabbits is affected by heat. So in the West, when they are in their heat season, when they are in the hot times of the year, they do not breed their rabbits. But in our part of the world, we can breed all season round. So we just have to pay attention to the times. We breed very early in the morning or later in the evening so that we get optimum results. Lastly, catering for our newborns. So when the rabbit gives birth, what do we expect? So when the rabbit gets pregnant, we expect that it's going to deliver after at least 27 days. So what we do is we get the litter box or a kindly box, either carton, wooden or aluminium box, anything that will help us keep the rabbits warm or make the female rabbits deliver into, or the doe deliver into. We provide that. The rabbit is either going to remove its fur to line the box, or we could get materials like dry plantain leaves or dried grass, and line it in the litter box. When the rabbit is due for delivery, it will enter into the box and then give birth into it. Sometimes they tend to remove everything we've put in the box and rather give birth in the cage. So we have to make sure our cages are safe enough for delivery so that rabbits or bunnies do not fall off when they are giving birth to. So when it gives birth onto the metal mesh in the cage, we just move them from the metal mesh and then put them in the box. So in order to prevent them defecating continuously into the boxes and then littering it. So that's what I use. That's the method I use. Sometimes, most of the time too, I do beforehand. I put a box 2 or 3 days before the rabbits actually give birth. So now that you have your first set of bunnies, you just pay attention to them. You check them every morning, you check them every evening. When you check them in the morning, you are checking for warmth. You are checking if they are warm enough. If they are cold, it means they are probably dying or they are probably not being fed. You check their tummy. If the tummy is round enough, it means they are being fed, and then you are free. You just go and then feed your mother rabbit. If the tummy isn't round enough, you have to force your doe to take care of the rabbit. So you hold it in the box. It doesn't have to lie. You can make it stand, and then make sure the rabbits, the bunnies, the newly born bunnies feed for the next 3 to 5 minutes. So if your rabbit is not feeding them, you do that in the morning and then in the evening to ensure that your rabbits are safe. After 2 weeks, the bunnies will start coming out of the litter boxes. If the weather is not cold enough, you can allow them to come out. If the weather is cold, you put them back, but you can't limit them so much because they'll keep coming out since they've started eating. So after the period of 2 weeks, they start feeding on whatever feed you give to your rabbits. At the age of 1 month, you can do your sexing, and at the age of 1 month, you can take away your bunnies as winners and then keep them in a community hatch where you can group a couple of rabbits in there. Then you start your feeding cycle or your fattening period. So you start feeding them with feed that's going to make them attain the weights that you want them to attain for the next 2 or 3 months, so that by the latest, by the age of 4 months, your rabbits are ready for eating or are ready for the kitchen. So this is the session on breed selection and then breeding of rabbits and then taking care of the young. We are going to discuss other sessions as we move along. Thank you for having me and enjoy the rest of your day. If today's your first time on my channel, hit the like button, kindly subscribe to my channel, and I'll advise or I'll plead with you to share my video link. Thank you once again, and I'm out.